3, 2, 1. Hey, you can see my reflection. I'm not in my normal bedroom, and if you know why, then you know. Last time I made a book recommendation video exactly like this, these no spice book recs, and oh my gosh, so many people loved it. I was not expecting it at all. That made me so happy because literally all my favorite books are like no spice books like this. Like I only really started reading adult romance when I started my channel. Originally and forever, I am low-key, high-key, a no spice truther, so this is quite perfect for both of us. Let me bring out the vault because I have so many good book recommendations for you guys. I have a lot of toxic traits, but my best one is definitely gatekeeping, especially with like books like the ones that I truly love. Once again, I have so many more book recs. Some of them I've talked about before in other videos. I've split it up into categories. I will put all the timestamps for the categories below if you guys want to see. I'll put them also here right now. We're just gonna begin right away because I have literally so many books. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 32 slash more because a lot of these are actually book series. I'm not even joking that this is actually I'm debating on whether or not I want to start off with like the ones that I gatekeep so bad. It's like actually painful for me. Like I'm actually problematic, I feel like. Okay, fine. I'm just gonna begin with my two most gatekept ones. They actually belong to another category, which maybe I'll just start off with that category, which is wholesome middle grade. I've never gatekept anything harder in my entire life that no one's read. No one's read and no one's heard of them except for me. Ooh. Let me rip the band-aid off with this one. I will open the gates once again. By the way, this author wrote these books and then fell off the face of the planet, as the best authors do. It's The Boy Who Steals Houses and 1,000 Perfect Notes by C.G. Drews. I just have a maternal reaction toward these books. Like I just have the urge to breastfeed. Anyway, these are both contemporary. They're not really romances because romance is definitely not the biggest part. Once again, it's like a contemporary, super emotional, very, 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 very heavy books. They're kind of middle grade. I feel like they're in between middle grade and YA, maybe like young YA. And they just have the same vibe as like those Bridget Kemmerer books, like the super emotional, heavy, and like you just want to protect these characters with your entire life. And they do have a romance in them. Both of them are the same trope, which is like super quiet, calm boy who's like been through it, terrible home life and or non-existent home life, and then the girl is like sunshiny, has no idea about things that he's dealing with, but just being in her presence and just like having that sunshiny energy is like an escape for the boy, and she has no idea. She's just out here being a girl's girl, changing these boys' lives. So The Boy Who Steals Houses is about a boy and his brother. They like ran away from home, and it's called The Boy Who Steals Houses because they pretty much break into these homes where the family's like on vacation or something, and they stay there while the family's on vacation because they don't have a home. One day the family actually comes home from vacation and he doesn't realize it. This is like a big family, like a lot going on, and the parents kind of just assume that he's like a friend of like the daughters, and the daughter and the brothers just kind of become friends with him, and so they kind of take him in as like part of their family, and they have no idea anything about what's happening. And it's like the first time that he's ever had like that sense of security and safety and friendship. And the parents, I love the parents, and the siblings, like the big siblings, like this actually makes him want to have like 15 kids and start a hockey team. Fun fact is that there are apparently sequels to this book and I actually can't find them anywhere, and that's actually the loss of my life. 1,000 Perfect Notes, which is again about a boy, and he has like a very abusive, narcissistic, physically and emotionally and psychologically abusive mother forcing him to play piano like 24/7. It's crazy. It's insane. When I see her and he ends up befriending, forget if they have to work on a project or she's new or something like that, they end up becoming friends, or she is insistent on becoming friends with him, even though he is initially like, I don't want to become friends with anyone because he's too busy having to practice his piano. He doesn't want anyone to know about what's happening in his life with his mom and stuff. He also has a little sister that he has to take care of. All he wants to do is keep his sister from like having the same fate as him. Like he's like a boy of few words. She's like so sunshiny, like keeps herself entertained, like yapper. Like I love like the calm boy professional yapper combo. As a professional yapper, I actually binged both of these books in one night, I'm pretty sure, and I loved them so much. These are actually my biggest book recs. The rest of the wholesome middle grade, I've never gatekept anything harder in my life category. By the way, every book in this category, Grave Robber's Apprentice, Serafina, and Lockwood & Co., all these are like middle grade, where like, okay, it's a middle grade, so obviously there's no spice in it because I'll be so deranged if they start as a friendship, but has the trajectory of becoming romancy as the kids age throughout the book series. So that's what these next three books are. First, The Grave Robber's Apprentice. Fun fact, the author actually came and read a portion of it when I was in middle school, right when this book was like published. But it's about a boy named Hans and a girl, I forget what her name is. She's like a duchess, I'm pretty sure, and he is eating scraps, like comes from nothing. He's raised by a grave robber. They end up meeting and becoming friends by chance, even though they're like completely different social statuses, completely different worlds. It's just really cute and wholesome. And then we have Serafina, the series. The first one is, I think, The Black Cloak. Again, it's about Serafina, comes from nothing, and this time the boy Brayden lives in like the manor that her father like works at, and she like secretly lives in the basement of this manor, and she's been kept a secret her entire life. But her and Brayden end up becoming friends, trying to like solve this mystery of these kids like going missing. It's actually kind of dark, actually. Just the platonic friendship between them is so sweet. And I think later on in the books, it does become more romancy, or like that starts getting introduced in the series as they get older. Very, very cute. And then we have Lockwood and Co., which I had a hyperfixation on the Netflix TV show, and then it made me read the books. If you haven't seen the series on Netflix, it got canceled, hashtag sister canceled. Once again, the biggest loss of my life. This and Julie and the Phantoms, I will never forgive Netflix for. But it's about ghost hunters, and they have their little agency, Lockwood and Co. It's ran by Anthony Lockwood, and then our main character is Lucy Carlisle, and she joins the agency, and they're doing stuff together. But I'm gonna try to like find like a clip, because oh my gosh, like I think that I came across just a random like YouTube edit, and I was like, ooh, and I saw it and I was like flabbergasted. I think that the beginning books are definitely more juvenile writing, but then as the book series goes on, I think that it becomes like more, you know what I mean? Next, we have my slow burn holy grails. A lot of these I've talked about before on my channel incessantly and unsolicited, as one does. So I'm not going to explain them too much, but they are the Chaos Walking series, the Raven Boys series, the Diviners series, and the Gilded Wolves. I'm also going to do a shout out to the False Prince, A Darker Shade of Magic, and the Savage Song, but I will get to those later. So the first four, the Chaos Walking and the Raven Boys, are probably the one that I recommend the most. Chaos Walking, don't watch the movie with Tom Holland. Don't do it. It's a trilogy. The books are fat. I know. It's like dystopian, post-apocalyptic, and you basically follow a boy named Todd who kind of has to run away from his home after he figures out something that is quite terrible. And he's never seen a girl in his life. And in this world, everyone can like hear each other's thoughts. It's like called noise. It just like is out loud. And he comes across a girl for the first time, and she doesn't have any noise. And he's like, what? And they end up going on this adventure together. Throughout these 3 books, they have like the best relationship progression arc I've ever read about in my 23 years of living. I was gonna say 22, now I'm 23. It goes from not trustful, reluctant travel companion allies to like then being like the only people I trust in the entire world is you. I feel Lovers is like too, it's just not enough. It is just not enough for these two, let me tell you. Raven Boys I've talked about to death, but the Diviners and Gilded Wolves I feel like are so underrated for the romance subplot, especially the Gilded Wolves. The Gilded Wolves probably did like one of the best friends to lovers I've ever read, and no one is talking about it. So what's up with that? Let's give Roshni Chokshi her roses, okay? I literally read this entire trilogy just because of one couple who was not even a couple until like the 3rd book, but the slow burn was so good. It's like with the historian of the group, and like I think is she an engineer? It's very much like quiet girl, and then a yapper boy, like yapper nerdy boy who like loves his niche interests so much, but no one else wants to hear him yap about it, and like Loki doesn't listen to him except for her. She will always listen to him, and he always notices her even though she's like the quiet one of the group. Like he's always looking out for her, always thinking about her, giving her cookies. No one really knows how deep like their friendship is, like, and how well they work together. No one really knows because it's just like all these private moments between the two of them. She's very like autistic coded, even if it's like not said in the book. She's very coded, and so her like figuring out these feelings and feeling them for the first time with him, because she has no idea, homegirl has no idea what's happening, and then him noticing her for the first time. It's so cute, and it actually spans across all 3 of the books. Okay, special shout out to The False Prince by Jennifer A. Nielsen, because it's not as much of a slow burn, and the romance definitely is not as big. It's just like one of my favorite book series of all time, and I think the romance in it is like just perfect, because there's like so much happening in the plot that there genuinely wouldn't be enough time for like a full blown out, fully developed romance. It's a little bit that's in it. It's like actually really cute. It's about an orphan who gets snatched up by someone, him and a bunch of other boys, to try to pass him off as like the lost prince. They have to get like training done at like the manor, and the girl is like one of the servants. He just like has a special attention to her, and it was just like really cute and really sweet. Also special shout out to A Darker Shade of Magic and The Savage Song, because you guys know that I love Six of Crows. These are 2 books that I recommend if you love Six of Crows too and you're chasing the Kanej high. These 2 are probably the closest books that I've gotten to it, even though nothing will ever live up to it, but these become pretty damn close, I will say. The Savage Song is like dystopian-ish. Monsters are like manifested, and there's kind of like a war going on between human and monsters, and they're like factioned off like in this city. One monster and one human end up going kind of like undercover, and they end up at the same high school, but they don't know who the undercover person is, and they end up becoming friends. So it's like enemies, secret identities. This is another one that's like such a good friends to lovers. Like they genuinely end up being such good friends throughout the first and a half of the 2nd book, and then only really subtly starts turning into a lovers at the end of the 2nd book. But you know that I'm delusional, and I called it from the very beginning. Dark Shade of Magic has the really good friends to lovers, but like companion vibes working together, like Kanej. It really reminds me of the dynamic between like the Doctor and his companion in like the Doctor Who like TV show. Not that I know anything about that TV show except for season 7 with Matt Smith and Clara, because I've just annually rewatched those episodes only because I'm obsessed. Next, we have our historical. These have a special place in my heart because I actually love historical fiction. We have the Jane Austen Society, The Circus Train, Beyond That, The Sea, and Salt to the Sea. I actually love historical fiction because the romance subplots in them always hit so good. The Jane Austen Society, not to be confused by the 2007 rom-com featuring Hugh Dancy, the Jane Austen book club. I mean, you can probably guess like what it's about. Circus Train I love because it's again like a true childhood friends to lovers. Like you follow them from when they're like children all up until their adulthood, and the rep in this is great too because the girl is in a wheelchair. They're on a circus train. It's exactly what it sounds like. The boy ends up being like a stowaway at the beginning of the book, and they end up kind of taking him in. He is also Jewish, but they keep it a secret because Jews were being persecuted during that time, which I love childhood friends that are like chronological like that. Beyond That, The Sea is like kind of literary. Think like if The Summer I Turned Pretty was like 8,000,000% sadder, took place in a war, and spanned when they were children to when they're like 40 years old. And then Salt to the Sea is about like a marine disaster, all these different character point of views, and there's a little subplot of romance in there between a soldier and a nurse, which I really ate up. All these books are good on their own merit, by the way, the history of it and just the story of it. Next, we have our literary fictions, one of my favorite genres ever because the romance subplots in them always hit so good. Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine and A Man Called Ove. These are both 5-star reads for me, by the way. I think Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine is such a good gateway literary fiction book if you haven't read that genre before, but it's about Eleanor Oliphant, who is not completely fine, by the way, an office worker. We're inside of her head and you can kind of tell that something happened that we don't know about, and it doesn't get revealed until the end of the book. You can just tell that Eleanor also isn't like reading social cues very well, and she ends up becoming friends with the IT guy at the office. He's trying to become friends with her. Homegirl has no idea what's going on. I was very touched by this book. It's very short, so I highly recommend all the time. And A Man Called Ove is probably one of my favorite love stories ever, and if I had to choose a love story that could happen to me in my life, it would be this one. Actually, maybe not, because it's actually really sad in the present day. But in the past flashbacks, then yes. Frederick Bachman is a literal genius, and I want him to write my eulogy. So the next category is my bread and butter for books, which is romance subplots in a fantasy. So these ones have a romance subplot that are like more significant than the slow burn ones that I talked about in the beginning of this book, even though I like the slow burn ones better because the less significant it is, the better it hits. And the more that I'm begging for scraps at the author's feet, like I will actually kiss all of your toes. But these ones have a bit of like a more significant romance subplot, but I still really like them. The Last Magician, Renegades, The Night Circus, Graceling, Lunar Chronicles, Legendborn, and Ember in the Ashes, and The Demon King. A lot of these are really popular and kind of old, so 1,000,000% everyone has read them. I will give a shout out to The Last Magician and The Demon King because I feel like those ones are not as popular, but like I feel like they're such good books. Oh my god, wait, I kind of want to add one in here, which is the Last Kingdom series. Oh no, The Fallen Kingdoms. The Fallen Kingdom series by Morgan Rhodes. Those 3 books series are really underrated. Let's give these authors their bags. The Last Magician, I just have a big fat crush on the main character, Hart. He's a magician, and magicians are hot, okay? It's not the hottest thing I've ever seen. Anyway, and the Fallen Kingdom series is like Game of Thrones for babies, like Game of Thrones for YA. Next, we have adult romance, which this is my hardest category for because so many adult romances like have just spice in them just because of the genre, which I don't love all the time. These are 2 that I read recently by Catherine Center. These ones are 2 of her backlists that are a bit more literary / like chick lit. Things You Save in a Fire and How to Walk Away. I like Things You Save in a Fire way more than How to Walk Away because the boys in it, they're men, are really different. Things You Save in a Fire, he's like really baby girl. How to Walk Away is like with a PT who's like really grumpy. Things You Save in a Fire is about a firefighter. She's like killing it, honestly. She's cooking. But something disgusting and misogynistic happens at her last fire station, so she ends up moving. Everyone there doesn't want a woman there, etc. So she's obviously battling men as women do. If you are a hyper independent girl who's never really actually been genuinely interested in dating and you're like, there's something wrong with me, you're gonna read this book and have hope. And then in How to Walk Away, she is in a really terrible accident at the beginning of the book and she has to recover in the hospital. He's a PT there. Low-key, I was like, this must be violating some medical ethical laws, the fact that something's happening between them. As a fellow rehab science girly, I was like, ooh. Special shout out to A Novel Love Story by Ashley Pawson. I don't think that it's completely spice free. I'm trying to remember. If it's not completely spice free, it's like 1 out of 5 on the spice scale. Like, it's like small town. She ends up coming across her favorite fictional town. The guy in it I picture as Hugh Dancy. Last category, miscellaneous, Luck of the Titanic, Midnight City, and Portrait of a Thief. I honestly didn't know where to put these books. Luck of the Titanic is like YA, historical fiction, Asian, Stacey Lee, love her to death. Midnight Study I talk about to death. It's a dystopia, super good for a book slump. Kind of enemies to lovers. It's like bounty hunter and then the bounty, and they're like forced proximity, come across a young girl they need to take care of, giving found family in an alien invasion. And then Portrait of a Thief is like another heist, except they're messy as hell. It's giving like best friend's brother / brother's best friend. I forget which one it is. It's just like super ambiotic and vibey. Again, it's Asian, so of course for my fellow brothers and sisters out there, that is all the books that I have for this video. Again, please comment down your holy grails because I'm literally always looking for them. This is exactly my book taste. Okay, we have found each other. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. If there's any specific book tropes that you guys want, let me know. I will do those too. Follow me on my socials. They're all linked in the description. Instagram at sunnykimreads, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye. Good fortune, Toby.